All right, welcome to part three. Welcome to part three. I know we discussed on part one and part two on how to start a successful business. And the first part, we looked at starting with a clear problem to solve. And the second one, we looked at validating before you invest. So if you've missed out on any of these parts, you can scroll through and catch up. On part three today, we're looking at how to build a strong and memorable brand. So if you've been able to figure out a problem that needs to be solved, right, it means that you've been able to define what you can do, the kind of business you want to venture into, right? So before you venture into it, we've already looked at validating before you invest. You need to do empirical findings, do some prototyping, check to make sure that whatever you're trying to launch is something that is going to actually be solving a problem, and that you will not be wasting your resources, your time, your money, your efforts into something that is not going to be, propitious in the long run. So if you've been able to define those two premises, you've been able to understand what are the constraints and everything around it, now it's time to start building. Because now you have a solution and now you've found the means to invest into what works out. Now, building a memorable brand. Now the question is, what's a brand? A lot of people would agree with me that a brand is that unique feature that makes a product different from another one. So I'm using product because that's one of the most basic example of what we can use as a premise. It could be service. It might not just be a product, maybe an intangible feature or a tangible feature of it being a product. So what makes it unique? That can be the story behind it. It can be the color you used. It can be the tone, the customer experience, and all of these things, right? So when building a strong and memorable brand, you need to make sure first and foremost you are documenting the important things. For instance, your brand color. Let me start with that. You need to define and choose the right color for your brand. You don't just, maybe because your favorite color is red, and then you choose to use red for your brand. You need to introspect or think. Use a specialist. I'll always advise people to work with a specialist within your budget. A design agency or someone that knows well about branding. And discuss with them. Get some basic consultation. It's not always so expensive to consult. Even if you have a friend that understands design or branding and things like that, discuss with them. If you don't have someone around, watch YouTube videos or something. Make some research and find out what is the best color to use for my brand, story behind it, my logo. Those are some of your brand assets. So when you are able to define these things, you can now eventually move on to documenting it. When I say document, it means you have to register it. If you get your logo, you can get it trademarked. If you get your business name, which is also your brand assets, check the country you're in and find out what are the regulations. How do I get those names or the name that I have, properly registered? So when you register those things, you can now, like in Nigeria, you have to get CSC documentation. Follow all of those things, document it, and then you have started building a brand. And to keep your stories, all of these things, you need to also open social media accounts. Maybe Instagram, maybe LinkedIn, maybe you need to use your WhatsApp for now, maybe Facebook, whichever one. TikTok. Document some of your stories, some of the things that are going on and how you're growing. That is how you start building a memorable brand. Make sure you also have a good customer experience. You need to learn about it or have someone that understands this thing work with you. So you can also read up what are the things that your brand should have based on your industry. Read up what people are doing. Empirical findings is just always to help you navigate so you don't make the mistakes that other people in that same industry have made in the past. So if you're able to do that and build it and start it, it gives you a structure and a baseline to move forward with. join me on part 4. On part 4, we're going to be talking about something else, and I'll keep it unique, I'll keep it exclusive. Thank you. If you didn't watch the previous parts, please don't fail to check them out. MAX Gulliver. Peace.